I remember when I first set foot in Glasgow for my job interview at this church that I had vaguely heard of called Adelaide Place. It'd been a difficult week for me leading up to the interview. I hadn't eaten in about a week, not out of nerves, but I had this horrendous sickness bug. And I remember I was in my suit and I got out of the car and I just parked over there on Pitt Street and I got out and there was just something immediately that I connected with the area that we found myself in. It was a stunning evening. The sun was shining and all the blonde sandstone was being lit up and it was beautiful. And I remember just feeling energized, happy, lifted, despite what my body was feeling in other ways. And I remember also feeling distinctly hopeful and curious and hungry for what God might be up to in this specific place. I think that as I've been here now a number of years, I've experienced some of these greater things. I've seen God do lots of different things in people's lives and round about us. But I've been coming back to this idea of hunger for the greater things of God in this place. Somebody who I think lived continually that sense of hunger for the greater things was a guy called Henry Drummond. Now, he was around in about the 19th century. He was Scottish, he was a minister, and he grew up in Stirling. And he was motivated and moved by the vision that's in John's Revelation in the Bible of a heavenly city descending down, a glorious vision of God's kingdom when it comes in its fullness. And he says this: the heaven of Christianity is different from all other heavens because the religion of Christianity is different from all other religions. Christianity is the religion of the cities. It moves among real things. Its sphere is the street, the marketplace, the working life of the world. If the future life were to be mainly spent in the temple, the present life might be mainly spent in the church. But if heaven be a city, the life of those who are going there must be a real life. Christ's gift to us was life, a rich and abundant life. And life is meant for living. An abundant life does not show itself in abundant dreaming, but in abundant living. In abundant living among real and tangible objects and to actual and practical purposes. When Christianity shall take upon itself in full responsibility the burden and care of cities, the kingdom of God will openly come on earth. People do not dispute that religion is in the church. What is now wanted is to let them see it in the city. I think the work God calls us to requires both humility and ambition. Humility because the needs of this city and our world are huge and complex and we cannot save anybody. Humility too because we ourselves have our own needs. We are broken people who just happen to know a God who is love, a God who is powerful. And that's why we have ambition, because we know the God in Jesus Christ who is a rescuing God, the God who will one day put things right. The Adelaide Place used to be an actual place. Before it became Bath Street and Sauchiehall Street and the streets that we know them as, there was a series of places that formed together to form these names that we now know. But even that name, Adelaide Place, reminds us that as we take up the particular problems of this city and this area, we are people rooted in a really specific place. We have this incredible transcendent hope, but we are rooted here in this part of the city, and it's here where we must seek the kingdom of God to break out in all its fullness and all its colour. And that's why we have this vision for the light of the glory of Jesus to spill out from here and across this city with people who carry this hope. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been starting to think as a leadership team about really specific conversations that will provoke us to respond to what God might be up to in this season, particularly as we move through post-COVID-19, whenever that comes. One thing in particular we'll be thinking about is leadership development, how we develop leaders who can serve well in the church, who can serve in the workplace, and can serve in the marketplace. We've also been thinking about the issues of racial injustice. How do we respond well? How do we play our part? As well as that, we've been having conversations that are beginning around coming out of this crisis well. How do we position ourselves well as we move through the phases, move through phase 2, 3, 4 and beyond? What do we do with our digital platform moving forward? What have we learned? How are we going to build that into the new normal that we create? And also, and maybe most importantly, we want to have a conversation around how we address those with the greatest needs coming out of this crisis of COVID-19, those with financial needs, physical needs, mental health needs. How can we as a church position ourselves to be there for those most in need? I say all this for two reasons. One, to remind ourselves to hunger after the greater things of God. To hunger after the God who is a healer, restorer, the one who lifts up the broken and the needy. To hunger that in our time He may move again in a greater way. The second thing is to remind ourselves that to play our part, to bring our best contribution. That might mean leaving some things behind as we think about the season that is ahead, but to offer our time, our energy, our gifts, our service, our whole lives, and to say, God, we want to play our part as a full participant in your church and what you're doing here. So let's remind ourselves of the words of Jesus again. Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things. May that be so in our time and in this place, in the months and the years that lie ahead.